Hello and great. I figured out how to get onto the live easy. So I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about co-parenting during the holidays. And one of the biggest things that I think comes up for folks during the holidays is the subject of gift giving and sharing holidays and extended family, and whether or not you can pull off parenting together during a holiday, like actually having a holiday event celebration, as well as transitions for your kids and expectations of changing family traditions, right? For your kids, like grief and expectations. Okay, so let me break it down. So the first thing is gift giving, but I think that's really connected to also tradition. So in the family, sometimes there's one person that does all the gift giving. In one of my families, the one person was like, I do it all. I write the list, I buy the stuff, I make sure it's going to be there on time, I wrap it, I put it out, I make sure that everyone's happy. Okay. So if the family's in two different homes and there's two different Christmas trees and there's two different, and I'm also just I'm just using the example of a family that follows the tradition of Christmas, but this could be any holiday where there's a sharing of gift giving. Is in both homes, there's going to be that tradition that's now done in different ways. So, to manage it, there needs to be some kind of communication between the parents around how to coordinate all of this. Some parents want to have some overlap on this um, tradition or this holiday, and the gift giving needs to be addressed. And if it's not addressed, then it's another awkward time for kids where you will see that the child will try to figure out how to deal with that, whether that it's that theme of disappointment arising or the theme of that one parent has more for them than the other parents, or the competitiveness. But you really want to watch that so that kids get to enjoy what both of their parents can do and not do. And you don't want to set it up that one person kind of looks bad, but then you're also in a separation. So it's really not your responsibility to fix things in both families. So the best thing to do is to try to communicate what you're planning on doing and what you might think that the other person could either double up on or do with you, and make suggestions like that. Very direct and not tension filled. I was thinking of buying a few bigger things for our kid because that's what they're wanting. And do you want to go in on them, or do you want to pick the ones you want to buy so there's no replication? Those kinds of questions would be really healthy to ask. And again, if communication is so taught that there's not going to be any answers, then you just need to do the best you can, and also prepare your child like it's going to be really different and it might not be perfect, but we can count on these things happening in this household. Like these are the things I can manage or do. I can get you one of the bigger gifts. I can make sure that this and this is happening that you like. I can make this kind of food for you. So sometimes it's really going towards what you can control in your environment if the tension is really extreme with your co parent. And again, I hope that's not always the case, but sometimes in the first year, it is definitely an awkward transitioning time, especially when people transition through the holiday period. Um, I don't recommend people transition through the holiday period, but sometimes things happen in life that is not able to be delayed. So everyone sort of does the best that they can, and that's something that I just like people to think about. And in that thought is like, you still try to do the best you can for your kid so that they don't get the brunt of a disappointing holiday. Okay, so we have the gift giving. The other thought is you will know just by the tips I'm telling you today whether you're in a place where you can share a holiday. So feelings like competition, possessiveness, real anger towards the other parent, jealousy if they have someone else in the picture, um, and not being able to focus on yourself and your child, or your time with your child, or what your child needs, are indications that you probably shouldn't share a holiday. Sometimes people push it too much and they want things to be normal, but normal doesn't feel good. So remember, you should do an evaluation instead of just signing up for something. And you might notice that there's like things in yourself that your feelings are getting too extreme, and that is maybe the message that you shouldn't do the holidays together. And it's hard sometimes to say no, right? Because that's also hard and that's disappointing. And there can be things like, well, they didn't want to do it, so that's why we didn't do it together. So there might be those kinds of things that are said. I always think that one of the counter things to say when it's like, I wanted to, but they didn't kind of comments is that everyone deserves to be comfortable and happy. And if that can't happen for one person, it really can't happen for everyone. So sometimes we're stuck with that it can't happen. And that's why the holiday isn't happening together. So you kind of talk about it as more of a universal theme because that's sort of true, right? That thing that happens in classrooms where teachers are like, "Okay, well, if everyone's not behaving, then no one's getting recess." And that's often a tricky thing because, some kids are getting, unfair treatment because they didn't do anything. But in a way, like, if the place is still disrupted and the teacher's not figuring out how to manage the disrupted kids, then even if, um everyone goes out for recess, those disruptive kids are still disrupting everyone. So it's sort of the same idea is that if somebody is unhappy, it's still a disruption in the system, and that maybe it's more peaceful not to push that point um, to do things all together. So that's my message about that. Extended family can be tricky because extended family get really hurt about not sharing in the holidays with kids, especially. And so you really want to see if, again, like that, I'm going to talk about some systems that are not so tense that there can't be any conversation, but oftentimes that's a time to include professionals or to have a truce about like, you get one day, I get the other, or I get this holiday, you get that holiday, so that I can have the tradition with my family, you can have the tradition with yours. And sometimes that is the only fair thing to do. And then on the days that you're on your own, to really hyper take care of yourself during that time. That's really important. And to tell your kids that you're really taking care of yourself during that time so they don't have to feel worried about you or like that they have to feel bad about their time without you. That's a really important point, too. Um, so we have gift giving. Is it your time to do the holidays together? Extended family and having the freedom, giving your kids the freedom to talk with extended family. And I always have the caveat of part of that agreement is that family doesn't talk about the situation of the divorce or the other parent in a negative way, even gesturing, even smirking. But that's really important because remember, the self esteem of your child is partly about their love, or mostly about their love of both of you, because their ideal of both of you is internalized. And if they feel like they can't love the other parent in front of your family or you, then they have to compartmentalize it, like compartmentalizing a part of themselves and a part of their good feelings about themselves. And so it's really important to watch that because that's kind of causes what people call like a psychological split. Like you can't completely be yourself with one parent because you have to hide the whole life and the whole joy that you feel with the other parent. It's painful and it's challenging, and that's one of the challenging parts of separation and divorce is just that piece. So really try to be aware of that and how you contribute to that. And your kids' grief, right? About new traditions. And we talked about that last week about the art of being present, as present as you can in the moments that you can enjoy and the joy that you can have with your kids in different ways. And I'm bringing that up again because I feel like it's really important to talk about um, acknowledging that your kids might have grief and not ignoring that, and also just having some time for that, that they don't have to feel bad about having some grief. So it might be just like letting them have space to talk about some things. You don't have to defend or explain. You can just say, I'm just giving you space to talk about that. Sometimes I can't make things better, but I can listen to you and I can hear how you're feeling. and that feels really hard. And so sometimes it's just practicing active listening. There's nothing more healing than active listening. I notice this a lot in my groups that I run. Um, is just that thought of just hearing somebody out, and you don't really have to comment um, or console. You just have to hear. Yeah, I heard you. I heard that you said that you're really sad about that, and I'm so sorry that you're so sad about that. Maybe I'll sit closer to you right now, or maybe I'll just stay in the room with you for a little bit, or maybe you can tell me what you need if you know what that is. It's not so much pushing your own agenda, or sometimes we as parents feel so uncomfortable and we can't make things better for our kids, and we have to hear their pain. And so remember that, like, sometimes just allowing them to tell us their pain is a way of helping them feel better, right? And if they have to hide it, then we don't know what it turns into, right? Turns into something that might be passive acting out or things like that. So watch that, and watch that concept for a little bit. So, so the holiday season is coming and it's upon us. We finished Thanksgiving. We're going into another season of lots of holidays, of a school break, of maybe even kids coming home from school. And I want you for minute to just think about the most important thing that you, as a parent, wanted as a parent for yourself, like in your relationship with your child, not in terms of like the vision that you had of how you were going to raise your kid, or the vision that you had of a family that you were going to create with the partner that you chose, but just your own sense of like what was important for you as a parent, um in terms of when your child came into the world, like what did you want to give them. And my hope is that there's something that's really about your translation of some of your values to them, or your time with them, and the way that you wanted to show up for them. And if you can remember some of those things for yourself, I think that can be a really big healer for your child, is just to feel like they get part of you, a higher quality of your connection with them. And in whatever way that looks like, even if it's just the routine that you keep in your household, and just telling them, what you look forward to in terms of the day with them. Sometimes that is the new way, right? That's the new tradition that's coming across to your kids, so that they can feel like, okay, there's some stability with this person and me, and without the other parent, and that is something that they can they can grab onto, right? So sometimes there's an emotional difference between your relationship with your child and the other parent's relationship, and so you want to kind of start figuring out how to be um, all of the emotional connection to your child when they're with you. So just take reflection on that quality of parenting thought and see what you come up with, so that you can share some moments during this break with your child, even if it's just a night or a day or however long you have, um, and see if you can make the most of it for yourself, and that you actually get to remark on yourself, like to celebrate parts of the way you show up, for your child in this time. Okay, so I'll be speaking again to you next week. Thanks for your comments and your questions. I really appreciate the feedback, and also just hearing from you that you're out there and listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe if you feel like this is helpful. Don't hesitate to tell me things that would be more helpful for me to talk about. But I'm hoping that this is something that's getting you to think. Okay, bye for now, and see you next week.